Hey, I'm live. How about that? Hey, everybody. This is Ned Bellavance from nedinthecloud.com, and I'm also on Twitter at Ned1313, and this is the Daily Check-In. I'm going to try to do this on a daily basis through the month of April and see how it goes. Estimating going to go for maybe about 10 minutes and talk about a topic that seems relevant to me in the world of cloud computing and information technology. So that's going to be my focus. I do have the chat available, even though it doesn't appear to be working at the moment, but I do have the chat available. I'm going to pop it out. Maybe that'll help it load. Hey, it looks like it loaded this time. Yay. So if you feel like you have jumped on the stream and you want to ask me a question, throw it in chat. That apparently is what it's for, and I'll keep an eye on it. I think there's some time lag there, but feel free to throw something in there. What do I want to talk about today? Well, I did see an announcement earlier today that Microsoft Ignite, that's the big tech conference that has traditionally been held in Orlando, has been moved to a virtual only event. And I'm not wild about that decision, but I understand why it's being done. So let me break it down in a couple different ways of how I'm personally thinking about it. The first thing that I'm thinking about is they moved the conference this year. So for, I think, 3 years in a row, possibly 4? No, I think it was 3. It was in Orlando every year, and everybody sort of assumed it was going to be in Orlando again. And then sort of out of nowhere, they moved it to, where did they move it to? New Orleans. Nolans. They moved it there, which was an interesting choice, probably good for New Orleans, but it was a bit surprising that they were going to do that. And now I'm sure New Orleans is not super happy about the fact that they have canceled it as an in-person event and moved it to a virtual only event. So that's a downside for them. I was looking forward to going because I've never been to New Orleans, and I was excited to crack outside of the conference and actually see the city a little bit while I was down there. I guess I could still technically do that once the lockdown has been removed for COVID-19, but it's not going to be under the auspices and good graces of Microsoft Ignite. So that's unfortunate. The other thing that I'm thinking about is that the MVP Summit recently happened this March. And for those who aren't aware, the MVP Summit is an annual summit of Microsoft MVPs. It happens in Bellevue, Washington, and the Redmond campus. So you go there, you spend about 3 days rubbing elbows with other MVPs and also the product groups for various products within Microsoft. You get sort of the inside scoop on what they've been doing, which to a certain degree has been less valuable because Microsoft has become more and more open about their roadmap and doing a lot of private and public previews. So some of that stuff is not as important, but what is super important is the level of community that it builds. And a lot of projects are inspired during that period where you're talking to other people and having a rapid fire exchange of ideas. At the end, you come out of it and you're like, oh, I have this great idea that you and I came up with. Let's stay in touch, even if we're in different cities or countries. And we will collaborate on this new idea. I know that's part of the reason I ended up writing a book, was because I met other MVPs and we were all really interested in Azure Kubernetes services. And we figured, why not write a book specifically about that? Plug, plug, plug. You can go find that on apress.com. That's not what I wanted to talk about, though. What I did want to talk about in that context is there's no replacement for that in-person organic interaction that happens at a conference. And yes, I could reach out through Yammer, and talk to other MVPs or through any other of a number of means, but the discovery process where you just hear a conversation, and then you jump into that conversation, it's a little harder to find within a virtual community. So that's difficult. I will also say that generally speaking, when I go to conferences, I barely go to any of the sessions, and often I'm very distracted when I do try to go because there's a lot of other things going on at the conference. I actually tend to spend most of my time in the hallway or on the expo floor talking to new vendors to find out kind of like what they're up to, what their take is on some new technology that's coming around, I went to KubeCon last year, and I really spent most of my time on the expo floor talking to all these interesting startups who were doing cool things in the Kubernetes space. I went to none of the talks, and except for the keynote, I went to none of the talks. That doesn't mean that the conference didn't have value for me. And if I wanted to watch one of those talks, most of them were recorded. I could watch them later. What I couldn't do was just stroll down the expo lane and talk to all these vendors in a way that I could get past the insane website that they put together that give you practically no information while like spewing a bunch of words at you. That is not generally useful. So the fact that I was able to break through that wall a bit and talk directly to someone who runs product marketing or product management for this startup or small company gave me a much better idea of what they're actually trying to do versus what was on the product slick that was on the table next to where we were talking. That's really hard to replace in a virtual context as well, having those frank conversations that you know are not recorded or being monitored through some digital means. That's difficult. The other part that I'll say about the fact that Ignite is going 100% virtual is you do lose a certain amount of audience attention. When I did go to sessions at Ignite or other conferences, I was in that session, and so I was taking a time out from a lot of distractions that were available to me. Yeah, I mean, I could pull out my phone, but what I would try to do is take notes while I was watching the presenter, and that would keep me focused in the moment of watching this person present, taking notes and trying to absorb the information. Let's take that example where I'm at the conference and I'm doing those things and it's going well and my attention is focused on them, and move that to when I'm attending a conference virtually at my home. Well, right now I've got my 3 kids home with me because schools are closed. I've got my wife home with me because her work is closed, and I work out of the home. So I have the distractions of family, not helpful. And then I have the distractions of having 2 monitors, so I can be sort of watching the talk, but also on Twitter and maybe chatting up in Slack or writing something else. So there's that level of distraction as well. I'm just not dedicated to this event. I'm not focused on it. And that lack of focus makes it very difficult to attend. It also feels like if there's other things demanding my time, watching someone give a talk is not real high up on my priority list. Whereas if I'm at the conference, I'm ostensibly there for the conference. I can carve out time. I have made the financial commitment to do it. And when you make a financial commitment, then it seems a lot more likely you're going to pay attention. That certainly happened to me in school. When I started paying for my own college and then paying for grad school, you better believe that I attended every class. I worked as hard as I could on every paper because that was my hard-earned money going out the door to pay for it. When I had skin in the game, now I'm laser focused on doing what I need to do to make the most out of what I'm paying for. When I'm attending a virtual conference, free or not, it doesn't feel as immediate. It doesn't feel like I've paid for something and you've gotten on a plane and I'm staying in a hotel. It doesn't have that whole feeling. So I understand why they did it. They had to do it because Ignite is not just the US Microsoft people coming together or Microsoft aficionados coming together. It's people globally coming to the US. And while we may have coronavirus under control by the time that this Ignite conference happens, and I think it was going to happen in November timeframe, we hopefully will have it under control in the US, but there will be other countries that don't yet have it under control. And so travel will still be somewhat restricted. Microsoft wants to put on a good show. So I completely understand why they're doing it, but it is really unfortunate. I think we need to, as an IT industry and those who go to conferences, we need to find an alternative way that brings in all these other elements of the organic conversations and the laser focus on a conference while still doing it virtually in a way that's going to be safe for the immediate future. And this may be a permanent change. So we really do need to figure out a way to do it. Is that virtual reality? Is that some other technology? I have no idea. It could be anything, right? But that is kind of where I think we're at. So with that, that's 10 minutes. I didn't realize I was going to be able to talk about Microsoft Ignite for 10 minutes straight, but apparently I can. I'm curious what other people's thoughts are here. So I believe I can repost this and people can watch it. So if you do rewatch this, hit me up on Twitter. I'm Ned1313. Let me know what your thoughts are. If you don't want to comment publicly, my DMs are basically open, so you can hit me up on a DM. If you have a topic that you want me to talk about on the daily check-in, I'm going to be trying to do this at 11:30 a.m. Eastern time every day, or at least Monday through Friday, and I'm going to talk for about 10 minutes, and I need topics. So if you have an idea or something you want me to discuss, please fire it off. I really appreciate it, and thanks for taking the time to watch if you did. Take care.